coffee's good, but I hear a gentle voice inside me say that slow and steady steps will be my pace. Slow and steady steps will win this race. It will take some time, but the victory will be mine. Slow and steady, I'm gonna learn to fly. I'm starting to believe I only race with me, only me. I can't give to someone else this journey for myself. It's for myself. Since my best is all I have, it is enough. I can see a ray of hope. I've got to trust that slow and steady steps will be my pace. Slow and steady
Come on
steps
in.
will win this race. It will take some time, but the victory will be mine. Slow and steady, I'm gonna learn to fly, and I will soar. I will reach the sky. A little at a time, I'm reaching. I'll keep believing that slow and steady steps.
Okay, folks, get on in here. That's a good song, but it's a 4-minute long song, and I like Why Not Today for my 4-minute long song. Anyway, come on in. I've got wonderful tea in my favorite green cup. This is hitting the spot. It really is. Anyway, announcements. Get your calendars. We're going to be closing for Christmas soon, and you won't be able to get it until after the new year. So I don't want you writing on the wall. So get your big calendar and your little calendar. Let's start. We're doing menu planning right now, and it's really a way to save money and give you back a little encouragement, because when you do a little menu planning, it is going to make you feel so good to be feeding your family well and knowing what's for dinner. That's half the battle. And then getting the food in there is another fourth of it, and then preparing it. Leanne and I always say, I can help you get your kitchen clean, and she can help you get dinner on the table. And together, we're the dynamic duo when it comes to getting your meals ready for your family. Somebody asked a question about the rose behind me. I can't get it to, let's see. Oh, I love the picture behind. I really love the rose picture behind you. Well, the rose picture behind me is the picture that's on this cup. And I don't know if you can see it, but this is a picture that I made in my garden. It had a double center. I had never seen a double center in ever in a rose. And so I made a cup out of it because I like cups, and I made 2 canvas prints out of it from Canvas Pop or whatever. I gave one to Patty and I kept one. So, and had them framed pretty, that you can get them framed. And that was my Christmas present to her one year. But it was just a beautiful picture of a rose. And I think Angie, one of my people, gave me the yellow rose bush. So it's just a beautiful rose from a beautiful person to a beautiful person and to me, and I'm a beautiful person. So that's my picture that I made with just a little old iPhone. That's all it was. Anyway, so thank you for liking my rose picture. It makes me happy every time I look at it. I have it as my screensaver on my second phone that's doing the YouTube video. So get your calendars. Water bottles are back in stock, y'all. Get your water bottles. If you've been wanting to give them as Christmas presents, you've been waiting for about 6 months for them. So get them while we have them, because they will go fast. And let's see, what else? Feather dusters. The feather duster sale ends on Monday. It's $12 off right now, but you can get the feather duster in the ultimate package. And the ultimate package is 11 items, important items to get in your house in order. And it's $111, which makes it $10 a piece. So you can actually get a feather duster for $10 if you get the ultimate package. So it gives you have some great tools to share with other people, and if you don't need them all, and you get a $10 feather duster in the mix. So get on in here. I promised you a story. And the story I wanted to tell you is when I first moved to North Carolina. And I moved to North Carolina in 1994, in October of 1994. And October of 1994 was a rough year. A rough year. I moved with my second husband, and his name was Chuck. I'll just say that much. And we moved up here on the 4th day of October, and we didn't have a place to live, so we were camping out. We had a truck and a car, and so we were sort of truck camping because there was a camper on the back of his truck. And it started raining, and it rained a lot. And I finally looked at him and said, "Yeah, I can't live like this. I got to have a roof over my head." So we found a rental house, and we rented a house. And that winter was tough. I just got through listening to a story about the Puritans and the Mayflower and the first Thanksgiving, and I just got through listening to this story on Rush, and he was telling about the first Thanksgiving and how it took everybody pulling together, and how socialism didn't work. But the story was beautiful. I don't think I've ever heard it before, and never been this calm at Thanksgiving. And I'm always doing something, getting things ready, rushing around. And I don't have to rush around this year because it's me and Robert, and things are practically already cooked. And so I'm listening to the story, and he's talking about how bad the winter was. Well, that was a bad winter for us. But we found this cute little cabin. It had wood heat. It had a stove. It had an actual wood-burning cook stove in it. It was an old cabin. And a couple of old maid school teachers had built it back long time ago. And they had spent their summers up at Balsam Grove. And it was just a cute little 2-bedroom cabin. It had a 6-foot antique bathtub in it. It had a living room and a kitchen and a pantry. And it just, a little back deck, and it had spring water. I had never dealt with a spring before, but I learned a lot about springs. And I was able to help other people who had springs. So having gravity, they call it gravity water up here. So the water was caught up higher than the house, and it flowed down into the house. And you didn't have much water pressure, but you had water, unless a salamander got into the drain that sent water to the house. So, but I learned a lot about springs and capturing water, and spring water is absolutely wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But that winter was lean. I didn't have a job, and we'd just gotten here, like the Pilgrims had just moved here, and we would take our change from where we had gone to the store or whatever, and that change would go into a jar. And I've read a story about Christmas jars where you collect the money all year long, and then you take that jar and you put a bowl around it and you give it to somebody. You just put it on their doorstep, somebody in need. And I had this jar full of money that I'd just been putting change in. And I didn't know how we were going to have Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner. I can't remember which it was, but it was one of them, because I wanted turkey and dressing, and I wanted sweet potatoes and mashed potatoes, and I wanted all the fixings, but we couldn't afford it. So I counted out all the money in the jar, and there was $23.82. That's pretty much all the money I had to my name. And so I sat down and I looked in my pantry and could see what I had. So I had some cornmeal, I had some flour, I had some potatoes, I had parts of things. I think I might have had some chicken in the freezer, but I didn't have a very big freezer, so I couldn't save a whole lot of things. It was just a small little refrigerator. And I took that $23.82 and I went to the grocery store, and I bought some sweet potatoes, and I bought some green beans, and I bought some chicken thighs, just chicken thighs, because I wanted to make broth out of the chicken thighs, and chicken thighs makes, especially if you got the skin on them, you make a really good broth. And I turned the chicken broth into gravy. I turned the chicken thighs, I took all the meat off the bone and made more broth, and just kept cooking it. Made a pan of biscuits, because you got to have some buttermilk. And before I knew it, I had a nice little Thanksgiving spread for just me and Chuck. That's it. That's all you need. And I was thankful. I was thankful that I had a roof over my head, because I'd been living in the rain. I was thankful that I had $23.82. I've had less than that. After that, I had less than that. But I was thankful to have a roof over my head, to have water and food, and the ability to know how to cook, and wood to heat the house. I had everything I needed. And I needed to give thanks for that in some form or fashion. So I made the meal, and I had leftovers, and it was kind of like the loaves and fishes from the Bible. That meal kept on giving. It just kept on giving. So stopping and listening to what God has to tell you. I don't know why. I really don't know why I moved up here, but God had a purpose. Everything happens. And by May of the next year, Chuck was gone. He had no desire to stick around We were married because I'm not going to, I'm not going to live with somebody. And he left. And I never saw him again. We had our first argument, and he left. And he left on Mother's Day. Well, the weird part is, that same week, Robert's wife of 17 years said she wanted a divorce. I didn't know Robert. She wanted a divorce. And he said, okay. You can't make somebody happy who doesn't love you. You just can't. So it was another year and 2 or 3 months before I ever met Robert. In North Carolina, it takes a year of being separated before you can even start to get a divorce. And I didn't have any money to get a divorce. I didn't have anything. And so I went to the courthouse and I asked the clerk, I said, how do I go about getting a divorce? And she says, well, you need to get a lawyer. And I said, I can't afford a lawyer. I said, my husband ran off and I don't know where he is. And she said, do you have any idea where he is? And I said, yeah, I think he's over in Jackson County. And she said, well, you need to do this, this, and this. She said, but don't tell anybody I told you. She was a sweetheart. And this was before computers were out there, big time. I knew there were computers and I knew there was an internet, but I didn't have access to any of it. So she ran me off a copy of this little petition, and I posted it in a paper over in another county for $5. So I got a divorce for $5. Think about it now. But I looked up to heaven and I said, God, I don't know why you've brought me to North Carolina. I have no clue. I'm a Tennessee girl. I have no clue why you brought me to North Carolina. But I'm here. And this is a beautiful place. And I'm a strong woman. And, I'm going to stick around and see why you brought me here. And why he brought me here sitting in that living room taking a nap in his recliner right now. Because God brought me here for Robert. Not Robert for me for Robert. And I'm so thankful to be in lockdown with the person I really like being with. Yeah. So that's another wonderful blessing, that I have the most amazing, sweet darling that takes care of me and spoils me rotten, but yet I spoil him rotten too. We go out of our way to be kind and loving to each other every single day. Every single day. He makes me coffee. He makes me fizz water. It's just a wonderful relationship, and I was patient. I stuck around. I got a job. I worked hard at Kmart and worked in the electronics department. I knew a lot about electronics, but I was a good teacher and I could help people with their stuff. I had fun. I really had fun. But that wasn't why God brought me to North Carolina. God brought me to North Carolina for Robert. Because on our very first date, he said to me, he told me about God breezes and about how we were both in our own little boats on a still lake, just in our own little boats. And think of God as the old north wind, and he's puffing out his cheeks to blow you in a direction to get you somewhere. Me to North Carolina. And Robert's telling me this, and we're having dinner on the side porch where my kitchen sink is right now, where our kitchen sink is right now. And after, just a while ago, I caught Robert shining the sink. I said, I'm going to tell the ladies you're shining the sink. He had cleaned out a nasty pan from his basement little science projects he's got going on down there. And it was a nasty pan, so he cleaned it out. And we had our first dinner, our first date on that side porch, and he told me about God breezes and God puffing out his jaws to blow you. Well, you either accept the breeze and be ready for the breeze, but in order to do that, you have to raise your sails and be ready to catch that breeze in full force. Not just sit there dead in the water, but be willing and have faith that God is going to send you where you're supposed to be. And I had that faith that day. I had that faith that summer. I was depressed and it was hard, but guess what? I survived. I made it. And I made it, and I made a life for myself. And when I met Robert in August of the next year, I knew on our very first date that I was going to spend the rest of my life with him. And I told Sister Patty, and Patty said, "You're going to jinx it." She said, "Don't say that. You're going to jinx it." But when you know, you know. You know. You know in your heart that that's why God brought you to North Carolina. That's why God's you put your sails up and you were willing to go where you were needed. It's amazing. I am in shock every day. And I thank the Lord every day for the life that I have, for the love that I have in that living room, for the kindness that He shows me every single day, and for that $23.82 that I was able to put together a Thanksgiving meal on a shoestring with just the money that was in the jar. You never know when you're going to need a backup. That was my little backup. It wasn't much, but it was enough. And enough is enough when you have faith. Well, y'all, have a great rest of the day. I love you all. Keep Ben in your prayers. They're working because he's not in a lot of pain, and Julie's just helping him any way she can. And just keep him in your prayers that soon he'll be with his mama and his sister. I love you all. And I will see you tomorrow morning. It's Anti-Procrastination Day. I know you've been putting things off. Bye.